Hello everyone, my name is Alexander Dinerstein. Welcome to my third course for the Go Magic platform. Perhaps you've already watched my first two courses on attachments and probing moves. Today I've chosen a topic that's close to my heart. You probably already know my playing style. After 20 years of teaching Go, I could easily put together examples on how to build moyos or attack groups, but that's not really my style. That's why today I'd like to tell you about aji. Aji, above all, ties in closely with the theme of safe, solid play. Let me tell you a bit about my own style. I started playing quite early, but I've been struggling with reading my entire life. You're probably familiar with this feeling. If you didn't start playing Go at age 5, but at 25 instead, then strategy, studying Fuseki and Joseki, comes more easily. While tactics are much harder. No matter how many problems we solve, once a complex fight begins, it's still difficult for us to control. So, knowing I have these issues, I always try to play as safely and peacefully as possible. This approach works well against many players, except for Ilya Shikshin, whom I regularly face in tournaments. He has an incredibly strong endgame, and I simply can't beat him in a peaceful game. But with all other masters, I strive to play as cautiously as I can. In this style, you play 50 moves of opening, and then 200 moves of endgame. Against weaker opponents, this works perfectly. To control the board effectively, to peacefully guide a game from start to finish, you need to develop a strong feel for the strengths and weaknesses of a position. That's exactly what we'll be discussing today, the Japanese term aji. What other terms will come up? Another word we'll use is aji-keshi. Aji-keshi is a Japanese term for a move that eliminates aji. It's usually a bad move, one that strengthens your opponent. Let's start with an example. In a game between Chinese professionals, I'll show what a very secure shape looks like. A shape with absolutely no aji. It's White's turn now. White played a hane. Black could have extended, but they decided to play elsewhere. Black played a hane, and now it's White's turn. If White wants to play on the bottom side, the most careful and solid move is this Atari. Although it might seem to create a bit of overconcentration for White, White could have extended further, for example, by playing here. Or maybe even a little bit closer. But what can we say about this resulting shape? There's still aji. I'd actually advise you, and I follow this principle myself. It's better to have a smaller but stronger territory, with no aji left inside it. If we play like this, what options are there? For example, a cross-cut. White can capture one of the stones, but at some point, Black can play Atari and escape. Or if Black gets a supporting stone on the side, Black can extend and save their stone. So if we get greedy and leave aji in this position, sooner or later White will have to return and add some moves here, make some additional moves. Therefore, when we want to eliminate aji, the best way is to either capture the stone completely, or if it has two liberties, like in this example, to reduce its liberties by playing Atari. And Black did the same thing. Instead of extending this way or playing a far extension, Black's next move was here. As a result, both Black's position and White's position are completely free of aji. If we surround this shape, neither White nor Black needs to worry about any potential problems here. Now let's look at the next example, this Fuseki for Black. White approached here. And then we see a fashionable move from modern Go. The attachment, which appeared thanks to AI engines. In fact, Black has many ways to respond to this move. They could play here, or play a hane on the other side. But in the game, Black played like this, inviting White to start a fight. White could have accepted that invitation, but they decided to leave the position as is. Now here's a question. If Black wants to defend this corner as solidly as possible, what would be the next move that completely eliminates the aji of this stone? As I said before, if you have the opportunity to reduce liberties, then this is the correct move for Black. It creates a super solid shape. Even if White completely surrounds this corner, Black doesn't have to worry about any trouble starting here. But if we play, for example, like this, it seems like we get more territory. but it's bound to cause problems down the road, especially if white gets supporting stones on the outside. Therefore, this move, which has the Japanese name honte, is a super solid and reliable move that completely eliminates aji in the position. Next example, let's talk a bit about modern patterns. You've probably seen how trendy this shape has become in modern Go, both for black and white. I don't use this shape in my own games. Why? This shape leaves you with some bad aji. Besides a 3-3 invasion, and maybe on an empty board, black could find a way to kill the stone. But black is likely to have problems if white gets supporting stones on the outside. That's one thing that can happen. Secondly, white can play an attachment. Black's response is followed by a crosscut, and black cannot keep all the territory. Black captures one stone, but white can break out, splitting black's position. Or, if white attaches and black blocks from this side, then yes, white's corner group can't live. But white can gain useful center moves on the outside. We play a descent. Black must capture the stones. And yes, white is dead, but now they have an attachment and a descent in cente. In the end, black's territory is hardly any bigger than if we had simply played here in the first place, instead of the move the computer recommended. When it comes to my own Go study, I have my favorite pros, and I always make a point to watch their games first. Some people just analyze the most recent games, watching one after another regardless of who played. For me though, I prefer to stick to the games played by my favorite pros. One of my favorite masters is Yoda Norimoto, 9Dan, who is known for his super solid style of play. And what is super solid play? It's a style that doesn't leave any aji. Yoda Norimoto really can't stand it when his groups are attacked, so he'll either sacrifice them immediately or make them solid right away so they're no longer a target. If we build a framework, it will likely have weaknesses that the opponent can exploit. This approach isn't quite compatible with a solid style of play. So, Yoda's style looks something like this. He'll play a super solid enclosure, carefully extend from it, and choose a Joseki like this one, or maybe this one, always going for maximum stability. I learned from this master by analyzing his games. I would also advise you to choose a professional whose style suits you best and to focus on watching their games. Now, about this specific shape, we'll discuss it separately later. We'll look at the difference between this shape on an empty board and what changes if white gets some stones on the outside. Let's look at another standard shape. A perfect example of a shape with absolutely no aji is the standard enclosure. In modern Go, it's somewhat less popular. There are ways to press on this shape, creating some over-concentration. While this enclosure used to be the most popular, in modern Go, we more often see this corner enclosure. Or maybe even this one. But for a solid style of play, if you're trying to avoid aji, that's a good choice. I play it myself, and I suggest you give it a try. The only way aji crops up in this shape is if the opponent gets stones on the outside. But even now, the shape is strong, and black isn't forced to play an extra move, like this traditional Japanese honte. Previously, we would defend this shape, but in modern Go, it's recommended to leave it as is. And even if white invades here, we're only talking about losing a bit of black's territory. It's not a life or death situation for the group. Black can always play here, let white live, and simply build a strong shape outside. Now, let's change this enclosure a little. So this corner enclosure is still common in games of professional players. But let's see what happens if we move it up a line. So you get a 5-4 and another stone here. What's the difference? It seems like the first shape had less territory, and this one has more. But what's the real difference? The first shape is basically free of any aji. But the moment we shift the shape, even slightly, we introduce aji. And that's bound to cause problems for black down the road. This shape is seen much less often in professional games. I don't usually play it myself. What's the problem? For example, white plays here. What should black do? Sure, black could answer like this. Or play here. And then jump. But you're not getting a lot of territory out of it. It feels like black should block. But what happens then? White plays an extension. And eventually, that bad aji in the corner is going to cause some trouble. White can play an attachment. Another attachment. And black risks losing all the territory. Even if black manages to play an extension first, it's still not secure territory yet. White still has this attachment and extension. And again, it's very difficult for black to defend everything. That's why my advice is to pick a shape that gives you fewer points, as long as it's stronger and leaves no aji behind. Another example, this standard Joseki. As you know, in modern Go, the move you'll see most often against a high approach is this attachment underneath. We get about 15 points of territory securing the corner. White defends, and with our next move, we complete our shape with 15 points of territory. Why not take 17 points instead? Why not shift the stone slightly? This looks solid too, so why is it that we see that move in practically every game but not this one? Shouldn't there be some kind of punishment? The truth is, there's no direct way for white to punish this, no way to break this shape. If the shape is solid, what's the difference? Here, the shape is super solid, with no aji at all. But by shifting the stone just a little, you're leaving a little bit of aji. First, white can get senti moves on the outside. Because of this attachment, white can now extend much further than the typical 3 or 4 spaces and try to build a large framework at the top. That's the first reason. The second reason is that if white extends and black decides to play tenuki, white has this move up their sleeve. And this can lead to some tricky ladder problems for black down the line. If black cuts, white connects, and if the ladder works for white, black's shape falls apart. So while it might look like more points and you can find some pro games where this is played, in fact it's extremely rare. Mainly because of the aji that is left behind. And the final example on this topic. The high approach to a 4-4 stone, once popular, is rarely seen in modern Go. What should black do here? If black attaches, we get a shape very similar to the 3-4 point Joseki. The difference, let's compare. I'll make the same shape on the left. It's the exact same shape, just moved up one line. On the left, black has a solid 15 points with no aji. On the right, it looks like you're getting more points, almost 20. But it leaves bad aji. And sooner or later, a 3-3 invasion will come, which is going to be a huge headache for black to deal with. This Atari will lead to a co-fight. And if black plays from the other side, trying to kill these stones, there will be a lot of trouble after this cut. So, it's better to have a solid 15 points than 20 points with bad aji. So initially, when you have a 4-4 stone, and your opponent plays a high approach, it's better not to play the attachment. Instead, play a careful one-space jump or a knight's move. Yes, the corner is smaller, but the trade-off is a shape that's completely free of aji.
By the way, you can also watch these lessons on our platform, gomagic.org. Except there, you'll watch them with interactive quizzes right within the lessons and practical exercises right after them. And if you enjoy watching these Go videos and you don't want to miss others like this one, go smash that like button, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and this is Go Magic.